to Roaming Yoga Connection. This is going to be our second installment of the February Basics series. I want to quickly go over what we talked about last week in our first installment, and working with the feet, the legs, and the thighs, and the action of hugging in towards midline, so that we're drawing energy up through the soles of our feet so that we can fully express each pose with as much vibrance and as much energy as we possibly can. And this also helps to build this really strong foundation for each and every one of our yoga poses, and starting to build a strong core so that no matter where we go or what's happening around us, that we can stay strong and rooted in our foundation. So we're going to still continue with our root chakra, but we're going to work a little bit more into the sacral, which is our second chakra, which is our seat of creativity. So we're going to be working mostly with our core, hips, and lower back. So first off, just starting in an easy seated cross-leg pose. Again, sitting on a block, a blanket, a bolster, however you need to adjust yourself so that this is a comfortable pose for you. And once you're here, I'm just letting your hands rest, sitting up as tall as you can, and closing your eyes and begin to breathe. When you're in your seated posture, take one hand to your belly and begin to breathe into your palm. So as you inhale, feel your waistline expand forward as much as you possibly can. And then as you gently exhale, you start to feel that waistline retract back towards your spine. You feel your hand press back into the belly. And just keep breathing into your palm, in and out through your nose. Exhaling completely. Inhaling fully. So we're tuning into the natural rhythm of our body. So our main focus today is going to be navel chakra, working with the lower abdomen, creating more space for the lower back so that we can better support and engage through the spine. So the actions we're focusing on is the actions in our core muscles, our waistline. So every time I talk about engaging your core muscles, I want you to imagine that there is a rope tied around your waist. And whenever we actively engage our core, that rope pulls back and your waistline pulls back as tight as it can. It's creating that support, that stability, and that strength in the abdomen. A few more breaths here. And begin to bring your hands into your heart center. So first, tilting your tailbone up, the points of your hips down, so you feel like your belly is kind of collapsing forward. We want to open up the lower back to start. And then again, pull your rope back. Waistline pulls back, your tailbone extends down. So with the tips of the bottoms of your rib cage, tuck the bottom down just a little bit. Take your shoulders up towards your ears and then rotate them down the back. So opening and creating space for the heart. Take your chin back just a little bit so that you can align the head over the neck, over the shoulders. Press your palms in. So if you're familiar with the Ujjayi breath, begin your ocean breathing, the gentle vibration at the back of the throat. The cooling air as you inhale, warming air as you exhale. So still breathing deep into the belly. Our intention, our focus for today. Breathing deep into our waistline, into our belly, letting the waistline expand and navel retract as you exhale. And then taking a deep breath in, exhaling to release the breath. And we're going to inhale for Om. With your next inhalation, let's take our arms all the way up, reaching as tall as you can, lifting out of your hips. Exhale, your fingertips float to the ground, roll your chin into your chest. And inhale, reaching up as tall as you can. Exhale to release your fingertips down. Inhale one more time, reaching as tall as you can. Exhale your hands back into heart center. Another deep breath in. Exhale to release your hands back to your knees. And we're going to open our pranayama practice, our breathing exercises with fire breath. So this can be a really intense breathing exercise. So I always recommend for my beginner students who have never experienced this breath, just take it nice and slow. So the intention or the awareness is on the exhale. It's a forced exhale. So as you exhale, your abs, your core muscles contract back, pressing quickly all of the oxygen out of the body. So your body naturally will do the inhalation. So if you can just try to focus your awareness on your exhale. And it is a little bit tricky here in the beginning. So going slow, trying to find a rhythm, the more that you kind of get experience with this, a little bit more comfortable you will become. So there is no right or wrong about this. If it's just not working today, you can always just sit and do regular breathing exercises. So again, still aligning the spine, waistline back, tailbone down, bottom of the rib cage tucked, shoulders back, heart open, chin back. So taking a deep breath in, exhaling completely, and inhaling for fire breath. And begin. So you're pumping the belly. As you feel a little bit more comfortable with it, you can go faster. And the faster you breathe, the more intense you will feel. And you'll really start to feel the heat, the energy building in the body. You're doing awesome. Couple more times. And inhale, hold at the top of your breath. Lift up through the sits bones, expression through the crown of the head, and exhale, slowly release. Again, inhaling. Exhaling completely. One more time. Exhaling. So our first pose of this sequence is going to be Balasana Child's Pose. So if you need to modify for tight hips, hamstrings, what have you, I would definitely recommend getting a couple of blankets. If you need, you can always put a blanket for extra support underneath your knees. It's also really nice to use this blanket if you have any sort of ankle issues. You can always stack your blanket so that when you come back to sitting on your heels, having a little bit of a bend in the ankle so that they're not completely flat onto the ground sometimes does help if you have any sort of ankle issues. If you have some tight hip issues, take your blanket, fold it up in half, and you can come to sitting on your heels. Your big toes are going to come together. Your knees are going to go out towards the edges of your mat. Shift forward, and you can bring your blanket or however many pillows, blankets, what have you that you need to sit underneath your hips so that you can be fully supported in this pose. This is supposed to be a nice relaxing pose, but it can be challenging if you have tight hips and hamstrings. So we're going to start with an active engagement so that we can really rest and just kind of let it all out in this pose. So when you are in and supported the way that you need to, bring your fingertips to the floor. I'm going to shift back a little bit so you can see. And we're going to start to walk our hands forward. So as you're walking your hands forward, start to lift the outside edges of your armpits and your elbows out towards the side. We want to be able to give some room for the chest to soften in between your arms and your shoulder blades. So you want your shoulder blades to come completely flat onto the back. Staying up on your fingertips, this will help to build your strength in your fingers and into the palms of your hands. Keep walking it out forward, and you can shift from side to side if you need to. So this will help to kind of create a little bit more space. It'll help the belly relax in between the thighs. It'll help the chest relax in between the arms. So coming all the way down. So if it's uncomfortable to bring your forehead to the mat, grab a block, and you can place your block down, and you can rest your forehead onto your block for some extra support, for some head and neck support. Otherwise, if you can, take your forehead all the way down, keep the outside edges of your arms lifted, and sway from side to side, get a little bit deeper into this Balasana Child's Pose. And bring your forehead to the mat, arms lifted, heart softened. Take a deep breath, and then you can rest your hands, your arms, everything onto the floor. Again, if you need to, you can fold at the elbows, stack the forearms, and rest your forehead on your forearms for another head and neck support. Otherwise, just let your chin rest onto the mat. Keep your hips pressed back towards your heels. And deep breaths here. So breathing into your belly and trying to relax all the muscles in the body. So if you need to, if you have the tight hips and you're feeling that tension and tightness, start directing your breath down into the hip sockets. Directing your breath down the thighs and the quadriceps. Breathing deeper and deeper will help to release the muscles around the bone and find a bit of relaxation in this pose. Again, if you need to come out at any time and stretch or work out any kinks, you can do so. Otherwise, this is a great pose to just find a nice resting place to connect to the rhythm of your breathing. And throughout any part of this practice, this is my recommended and most recommended pose for if you need to just take a break, to relax, to reconnect to your breathing if it becomes taxed. Child's pose is one of my personal favorites. I'm just trying to allow the body to relax all the muscles around the hip bones, relaxing the piriformis, relaxing the psoas, relaxing the top of the hips and the thighs. So as you take your next inhalation, draw some energy. As you exhale, we're going to walk our hands over to the right side of our mat. You're going to rest your head on the inside of your right arm. And try to draw your left hip back. You're going to reach as far over to the right with your left fingertips as you possibly can. Get full extension and length through the left side of your body, but keep your hips pressed back towards your heels, and especially the left hip drawing back to level your hips back out. You can even press into your left hand to kind of help this action of your hips coming back towards the heels. Another deep inhale. We're going to walk our hands back to center. And now we're going to exhale, walk our hands over to the left. So now extending as long and as tall as you can through the right fingertips as far as you can. Press into the palm, draw that right hip back. Let your head rest to the inside of that left arm. Deep cleansing breaths. Lengthening the right side of the body. Another deep breath in, and we're going to walk it back into center, coming back to our original Balasana. Whenever you're ready, on that next inhalation, ground through your hands, and we're going to slowly walk ourselves back up, nice and slow, in case there's any achies or creakies. So if it's comfortable to come and sit on your heels, do so. We can bring our knees in just a little bit if you need to. If it's not comfortable to sit like this on your heels, then you can always come into Sukhasana, easy seated pose. We're going to do a little counter pose just to really open the front of the body. So if you need to, grab a couple of blocks, because we're going to take our hands back behind us. If you know you don't need blocks, you can come down to your fingertips and that's comfortable on your shoulders, you can do so as well. Modification is using some blocks. You can either have your hands flat or up on your fingertips on the blocks as well. So starting with rotating the shoulders up and back, opening the heart. This is a deep chest opener as well. And just kind of reaching back as far as you can and begin to lift your heart. So you can stay here. If you're feeling a nice deep stretch through the body, through the hips, front of the body, you can stay here. If you want to go a little bit deeper, take another deep inhale. You're going to lift your hips off of your heels. Pressing into the tops of the feet so that you have extra support as you lift your hips. Take the crown of your head back if that's comfortable. A couple of deep breaths. And we're going to exhale, lower your hips first. Then we're going to come back to center. Gently roll your chin into your chest. Inhale, roll your left ear to left shoulder. Exhale, roll your chin to chest. Inhale, right ear to right shoulder. Exhale, chin to chest. And inhale, head into center. So we're going to come off of our blanket. We're going to set it off to the side. If you have your blocks, you're going to set those off to the side as well. We're going to come and work through some more cat and cow poses. So setting up here, we're going to bring our wrists underneath our shoulders, knees underneath our hips. So again, imagining that that rope is pulling our waistline up, our tailbone extends to the back edge of our mat. Fingertips spread wide. We're going to work through some cat and cow. Inhale and lower your belly. Extend your heart forward. Lift your tailbone. Exhale to press into your palms. Round your back. Shine your spine. And inhale. Coming into cow pose. Lift and extend your heart forward. Exhale, press into your palms. Really round, exaggerate this pose. Shine the spine. And inhale into cow once again. And exhale, shine your spine. Just keep flowing with your breath at your own pace. So we're warming up our spine, warming up the hips and the shoulders and our waistline. And don't forget to ground through the index finger. Our earth finger connecting through the full circle of your palms, through the fingertips, tops of your feet, or through the toes that are tucked. So 2 more times through our cat and cow. When you completed your second cycle, come back to a neutral table position. Waistline lifted, tailbone extended. We're going to walk our knees back. Keep your toes tucked. We're going to come all the way onto our bellies, but bring your elbows right underneath your shoulders. So you're kind of coming into almost like a Sphinx pose here, but we're going to work a little bit into our shoulders, work a little bit mainly into our core. So if you can, spread your fingertips wide. So you're going to gently press your fingers into the ground. Remember, again, keeping connected through your index finger. Your toes are going to be tucked here, and you can bring the feet together if you need to. So we're going to work into a half plank pose. So we're going to be on our elbows. So it's a little bit easier, but you can kind of be the judge of that later on. So we're going to build some core muscles. So starting with, we're going to kind of do what I call the inchworm. So you're going to drag your knees forward. So your tailbone is lifted. You have a deep bend in your lower back. And then you're going to exhale, extend your tailbone back to the edge of your mat so your waist is lifted. And now inhale, we're going to lift our knees. So we're hovering above the ground just a little bit. Keep your waistline lifted. That rope is pulling you up. Exhale to release. We're going to come all the way onto our bellies. Hands at your side, cheek to one side. Relax. Take some deep breaths. Now setting up once again. So bringing your elbows right underneath your shoulders once again. So you're about shoulder width apart with your arms and your hands. Tucking your toes. Doing our inchworm, lifting your hips. Lifting the tailbone and then extending your tailbone up and or down towards the back edge of your mat. Inhale your legs. Soften your heart between your arms. So we're hovering again. Keep your waistline lifted. And exhale all the way down. Arms to your side. Now cheek to opposite side. Deep breaths and relax. Deep cleansing breaths in and out through the nose. And last time, we're going to set up, elbows underneath your shoulders, hands shoulder width apart, fingertips spread wide, grounding through the index finger. Tuck your toes, inchworm, extend tailbone back, waistline lifts. Inhale, lift your legs. Hold here. Soften the heart. Exhale to release, and we're just going to extend the top of our feet down. We're just going to press back into a child's pose for a brief minute. Balasana. So from child's pose, we're going to start to come up to our first dynamic pose, which is Ardha Mukha Svanasana, or downward dog. So I like to come into this pose through child's pose. So again, just as we did in our child's pose, you want to make sure that you're lifting through the outsides of the arms. This creates space for the chest to soften, and it also creates a little bit more space and takes a little bit of pressure off of the wrists. So grounding through the index finger, full circle of your palms, fingertips gently pressed into the ground. Your toes are going to be tucked, so we're in our half elevated child's pose, Balasana. We're going to start to slowly lift our hips up, so you can keep your knees bent as much as you need to here. Especially our first downward dog of the day, you might be a little extra tight into the hips and the hamstrings and calves. So extending your tailbone high. Again, your waistline draws back. That rope is pulling you back, so you engage your core muscles. You can bend and unbend one knee at a time. So to start to warm up the backs of the legs. Deep breaths here. You can pulse the movements of your legs with your inhales and your exhales. Your feet are going to be hip distance apart. Keep lifting your tailbone up, waistline pulls back. And now we're going to extend our knees, extend our heels towards the back edge of our mat. Walk your feet out to the edges as much as you can and bend your knees deep. So we're going to do a wide hip opening. Lift your tailbone high, draw your waistline back. And soften your heart down.
And then keep this action, bring your feet together, extend your legs. As you take another deep breath in, exhale to release your knees to the floor. You can work through a cat and cow here if you'd like to. And then come to sitting on your heels or come back into Sukhasana, easy seated pose. So we're just going to do a little bit, since we are still building the forearms, just a little bit of rotating our hands around in a circle. Be a little nicer to our wrists and our arms. And then rotating in the opposite direction. And then reaching with your left hand and grabbing your right fingertips, extend your arms straight, but gently pull your right fingertips back towards your body. And then flexing your hand back towards you, so we're stretching out the top of the wrists. Then going to the opposite side, so now your right hand grabs your left fingertips, extend your arms straight and pull your fingertips back towards you. Deep breaths here, deep breaths from the belly, inhaling and lifting your waistline, exhaling, retracting your waistline. And flexing back. And taking your right arm over, you're going to hold on to your bicep. Pull your right arm as far over, fingertips spread wide. Inhale. Exhale, release, taking your other hand out to the side. Fingertips spread wide. And releasing here, rotating your shoulders forward. We're going to come back into our downward dog. So finding your elevated balasana. Toes are going to be tucked. Hands connected. Inhale to lift your hips. Again, bending and unbending the knees if you need to. Hips or feet are hip distance apart here. Deep breaths. Bend your knees, lift your tailbone, waistline lifts up. Pulling your rope. Extend your legs, heels reach to the floor. And we're going to inhale and lift our left leg high to the sky, as high as you can. And we're going to bend at that left knee, open the hips. So you're going to lift that left knee as high as you can. Try to draw your right shoulder up towards the top of your mat. Inhale, extend the legs straight back. Exhale, let the left foot meet the right. We're going to inhale, lift your right leg. Exhale, bend at that right knee. Open the hips out. So now we're trying to lift our left shoulder towards the top of the mat. Opening the hips. Inhale, lift that right leg. Exhale, let the right leg meet the left. Inhale. Exhale, draw the knees down. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, cow pose. Shine your spine. Just flow 2 more times. When you completed your second cycle, come back to a neutral spine, coming in a different way. So we're going to walk our knees back a few inches. You can shift your hips back a little bit and then lift your hips up. Downward dog. You can still bend and unbend the knees at a time if you need to. Bend your knees, lift your tailbone, waistline back. Extend your legs. And deep breaths. So from downward dog, we're going to move to Virabhadrasana 1, which is warrior 1. So let's take a deep breath in, and we're going to lift our left leg high to the sky. And we're going to inhale, draw that left foot up between your hands. Now, if you need blocks for support, then bring your blocks to either side of this front foot. So here, scissoring the feet towards each other, that's squeezing in towards midline. I'm going to start to engage the core, so that rope pulling up, tailbone extends down, your back heel touches the bottom of touches your mat, your toes pointing out towards the long edge of your mat, your front knee is bent. Start to bring your hands to your knees for support. Your waistline lifting, that rope is pulling all the way up. Come up. One hand to your lower belly, one hand to your lower back. So your hips and your shoulders are squared towards the top edge of your mat. If you need to, for tight hamstrings, you can come to the ball of the back foot so that you can bend your knees. You want to lift the front of your pelvis up to extend your tailbone down. Sink your hips. Take a look at your left knee. Make sure it's right over your ankle. And then you're going to inhale, bring your arms up. Exhale, lunge it forward. Lift your waistline off of your thigh. Inhale, sweep your arms back behind you like wings. And inhale your heart up, slight back bend. Exhale, lunge it forward. Inhale all the way up. Virabhadrasana 1, hold here. Deep breaths. So your fingertips are spread wide, shoulders down, away from your ears. Scissoring the feet towards each other, charging up the inner lining of the legs. Inhale. Exhale to release, come down to your blocks or fingertips to the floor, ground your palms, step back, downward dog, or child's pose for a break. We're going to inhale, lift this right leg high now. Exhale, you're going to draw that knee up. They're going to bring your foot up between your hands. Reach for your blocks if you need to for support to start. Ground your back heel down, front knee is bent. Scissor the feet towards each other. Charge up the inner lining of the legs. And start to feel the rope. Pull your waistline up, come up to the knee, all the way up. One hand to lower belly, one hand to lower back. Come to the ball of the back foot if you need to. Bend the knee. Lift the front of the pelvis up. Tailbone down. Hips and shoulders squared forward. Lunge deep in this right knee. Inhale, arms up overhead. So your shoulders come away from the ears. Draw the bottom of your rib cage back. Deep breaths. Look down towards your right knee. Track your right knee over the pinky toe side of the foot. Knee over the ankle. Deep breath. Inhale. Exhale, forward. Keep your belly lifted off of your thigh. Inhale, sweep your arms back like wings, back bend. Exhale, lunge forward. Inhale all the way up. Virabhadrasana 1, warrior 1. Deep breaths. Exhale to release all the way down. Hands come to the ground. Back into downward dog. Tailbone lifting, waistline lifts. Heels down to the floor. Reach your heart back towards your heels. You can take a child's pose as well. We're going to inhale, left leg straight up. Exhale, left leg between your hands. Come back to warrior one on the left side. Inhale, sweep it all the way up. So again, adjust if you need to. Front of the pelvis lifts, tailbone extends down. Heart, shoulders forward. Deep bend in the front knee. Deep breaths. Sink your hips a little bit lower. Deep. One more. Exhale to release. Back to downward dog. Or child's pose. And inhale, right leg. Exhale your right foot up between your hands. Warrior one on the right side. Slowly come up. Inhale, sweep the arms. Again, if you need to, manually adjust. Front of the pelvis lifts, tailbone extends down. Drawing your shoulders away from your ears. Tuck the bottoms of your rib cage down just a little bit. Track your knee over the ankle. Deep breaths. Fingertips spread wide, full expression, strong warrior pose, scissoring the feet towards each other. Draw the energy all the way up. Express it out through your fingertips, through the crown of the head. Inhale. Exhale to release nice and slow. Back to downward dog. Exhale, knees come to the ground, mat width apart, big toes come together. Grab your blankets or your blocks. Balasana, resting pose. Inhale, we're going to tuck our toes. But this time we're just going to walk ourselves back gently. So we're coming into Malasana. So if you have your blanket, grab it real quick. If your heels don't touch the ground completely, I'll show you a modification. You want to make sure that your foot is completely supported. So you're going to just place the heels onto the edge of your mat so that you can keep your spine nice and extended. You don't want to get a really deep rounding in the lower back. You want to keep everything lifted. So your feet can be hip distance apart. You can take your feet out a little bit wider if you need to. So if you come into this pose and your heels can touch, then bring the outsides of your arms to the inside of your knees. Press your knees into your arms and your arms into your knees. So this will create a little bit more support. Bring your hands to prayer, or you can keep your hands onto the ground. Lift your heart, lift your spine. Next deep inhale, we're going to lift our hips. Uttanasana. Deep breaths. Heel toe the feet in towards each other, hip distance apart. And just let it all hang out here. Heel toe the feet back out. so that your toes are kind of pointing out towards the corners. And then sink your hips back down, Malasana. Bring it back down, hands come to prayer. You can keep the palms of your hands onto the ground. Again, heels onto your blanket if you need to for support, if your heels don't touch. Lift your heart. Exhale, we're going to release into Uttanasana, heel toe the feet back in towards each other, hip distance apart. And last time coming into Malasana, heel toe it out, draw the hips down, but this time we're going to come all the way onto our butts. So we're going to work through our next core building exercise, and this is Navasana or boat pose. So this can be quite challenging, so just take it a little easier at a time. So my suggestion for this pose is, so that we can maintain the straight spine, is to hold on to the backs of your thighs. So here, start to lift your heart by pulling onto the backs of your thighs. So this will keep the spine elevated, lengthened and elongating through the crown of the head. And then you start to come to your tippy toes and shift yourself back so that you're kind of coming into a balancing onto your sits bones. Again, if you need some extra support, if you're kind of bony like I am, you can always come and sit on a blanket, which makes it just a little bit easier on your tailbone. So coming back, elevating your heart. You can experiment from here and go really slow. You can just lift one leg at a time, alternate. You can lift both legs. If you feel really comfortable, you can let your arms come out to the side and just holding here. But remembering, if you feel that rounding in your spine, to hold on to the backs of the legs so that you can elevate your heart. Lift, lift, lift. Deep breaths. Remember to breathe into your bellies. Keep breathing in and out through the nose. Exhale, we're going to slowly release this. Wrap your arms around your knees. Forehead comes forward and rest on the forearms. Inhale, we're going to come back up, working into another Navasana, boat pose. Holding on to the backs of your thighs. Lift your heart, tiptoe yourself back. Alternate the feet or come all the way up. Bring your hands out if you feel comfortable and your spine is nice and straight. We're going to hold here. Just keep breathing, remembering not to round, but lifting our hearts. And exhale to release this. Again, wrapping the arms around. Forehead comes forward. Round your spine, relax. And last Navasana. So setting up so that you can come all the way down from Navasana to your back. So, maybe going a little bit further towards the back edge of your mat so that you have room to extend out. Holding on to the backs of the thighs, walking yourself back, elevating your heart. Come to Navasana. We're going to slowly roll ourselves down. Legs extend until you're hovering just a few inches. And then release all the way onto your mat. Take a couple deep breaths here. bring the soles of your feet onto the mat once again. Bring your knees in towards your chest and draw big circles on the ceiling with your knees. Now rotate in the opposite direction. Another deep breath in, bring your knees into your chest, and let's take both knees over to the right. So your left shoulder blade is going to stay connected into the ground. You can bring your right hand to the top of the left knee, and just gently pressing and releasing the legs over. Nice deep spinal rotation to release the lower back muscles. Just softening the breath here as we cool down. Another deep breath in, contract and draw energy into your core to bring your knees back up to center. Now as you exhale, take both knees over to the left. Right or left hand comes to the top of the right thigh. Right shoulder blade stays connected into the ground. You can look straight up or over to your right fingertips. Again, drawing the energy in, draw the knees up to center. Again, drawing big circles on the ceiling with your knees in one direction, and then drawing circles in the opposite direction. We're going to come into a happy baby, our last hip opening pose of our sequence. So you're going to extend the soles of your feet towards the sky. Bend your knees as much as you can. Reach it for your shins, your ankles, or reach towards the insides of your feet. Draw your knees down towards the mat. And again, you can rock from side to side. Begin to draw the soles of the feet back together. Bring the knees in towards each other. And then gently try to draw one leg at a time back onto your mats. So we're coming into our final pose, Shavasana. So extending your legs straight, arms out to the side. Your insides of your feet are open towards the ceiling. Your palms are facing up, receiving the gifts of the universe. Closing your eyes. Getting your blankets, socks, eye pillows ready. As you start to come into this deeply relaxing and restorative pose. Integrating all that we have gone through in this series. Integrating the breath. Taking this time to mentally survey the body and releasing any last bits of resistance or tension with every exhale. And with every deep exhalation, your bones become heavier and heavier, sinking into the floor, deeper and deeper. Just surrendering your thoughts, the weight of your body. Relaxing the muscles in the face, relaxing the jaw and the throat, relaxing the shoulders and the chest,
Relaxing the belly, the hips, thighs, knees, calves and shins, and the ankles, the insides of the feet, the outsides of the feet, the soles, the toes, and the fingertips, the palms, the forearms, the biceps, the triceps. And just letting it all go. And I thank you all once again for sharing your practice with me, for continuing this journey. And until next time, namaste.